In today's episode, we are going to dive in to our stage 1 and stage 2 conversation of our financial foundations group. And the topic of the episode is really just why security, stage 1, before savings. And I know sometimes that can be a little bit confusing for the average person out there who's going to try, as they're getting their finances in order, kind of one of those first steps is going to be to go save a little bit more, right? They're going to put an extra $100 or try to get $1,000 in some sort of emergency account or go for 3 months or 6 months. But why we encourage people to look at security first.
Yeah, we want to make sure that you understand that we're talking about taking the risk away from you and yours. You can offset that risk and buy it away by having the right type of coverages and packages for lots of valuable things in your life. Money is supposed to buy cars, clothes, cuisine, and creature comforts, and we've got to make sure we do not lose that money and we do not stop that flow. So we're going to actually buy away our risk and transfer it to someone else first.
I found this headline while staying on top of my own personal finance. It's a new CBS analysis that is asking whether a $50,000 certificate of deposit, a CD, or a $50,000 money market account will earn more interest in 2026. With the Federal Reserve signaling potential rate cuts and inflation cooling from like the recent highs, savers are trying to decide, right? Either you lock in today's yield with the CD or you keep your money flexible with a money market account. So according to this CBS breakdown, current short-term CD rates are hovering around 3.9% to 4.05%, while many high-yield money markets are right around 4%. If those rates hold steady all year, the difference between $50,000 between the two is surprisingly small. A 3-month CD at roughly 3.9% would earn about $480, while a money market at 4% would earn about $492. It's a $12 gap. Over 6 months, a 4% CD might generate like $1,002 compared to roughly $990 from a money market. So again, it's almost identical. So mathematically, at current rates, neither vehicle clearly dominates. The real distinction, of course, is structural. A CD locks in your rate for a fixed term, and that's certainty. If the Fed cut rates later in the year, your yield doesn't actually move. A money market account, on the other hand, it floats. If rates decline, your return declines. But you do gain liquidity, access to your funds, and of course that means you don't have early withdrawal penalties and you've got the ability to move quickly. But here's the banking bros take. This entire conversation is happening inside a very narrow frame. Where can I park $50,000 to squeeze out an extra $12 or $20? And in my opinion, that's just not a wealth strategy. That's just yield shopping. Both CDs and money market accounts are tools. They're fine for short-term reserves, but they are still bank-controlled environments. The bank dictates the rates. The Fed influences the rate, and you're just reacting to the rate. The more strategic question is this: do you want to chase interest, or do you want to control the environment that your money operates in? If rates drop from 4% to 2.5%, money market holders lose income. If inflation re-accelerates, both vehicles may lose purchasing power in real terms. In both cases, you're exposed to forces you don't control. Sophisticated wealth builders think beyond fixed versus variable yield. They think about liquidity, guarantees, and whether their capital is positioned to move when opportunity shows up, not just sit around and earn like a little marginal interest. So yes, if you believe rate cuts are coming, locking in a CD could protect today's yield, but you need flexibility. And if you need more flexibility, then a money market makes sense. But don't confuse incremental interest optimization with a comprehensive wealth system. The savers who win long-term aren't just picking up slightly better rates, they're building financial structures that prioritize control and capital efficiency and predictable growth regardless of where the Fed moves next. And that's why we teach the save and spend system. And with that, let's jump back to the studio.
Okay, Jeremiah, we're going to talk about security before saving. So let's first define what we mean by security. Let's define what we mean by savings, and then let's go in deeper and let's talk about why one before the other and why that's a little bit backward from what the average person might assume as they try to get their financial life in order. So first up, we've got security. What do you have to say about that?
Well, in the security stage of what we are talking about here, stage one of our save and spend system, we're trying to make sure that we are not going to be at risk for emergencies and big catastrophic events.
That's right.
The idea here, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I say ladies and gentlemen a lot, okay, for you, is we want to make sure that you, young listener, are not at fault, at risk, and liable to have to pay for big things that there's no way you can cover.
Yeah.
That's the idea. So we're talking about your property and casualty insurance.
That is known as vehicle and home or renters,
Right.
if for those of you out there who didn't realize.
Yeah, so we are trying to make sure you get that part of the system covered, and you don't show up like, Jonah, I recently got a TikTok. I just showed it to you. Somebody sent it to me in the DMs, and somebody says, hey, you know how we can save $10,000 this year? Wouldn't that be great?
Yep, sure.
Well, she said, I've been driving without car insurance. I saved $9,000 so far.
Oh, boy.
So here's the thing.
Prioritizing savings over security is what that is.
Yes, right.
Yeah,
Okay,
we don't,
so
we
she
don't
got-
think
she
you
has
should
money.
do that.
Right, she has money. And I talked to somebody before that I think I brought up on a previous episode. I know I've told you offline that this guy was talking about I had saved $800 or $900, same thing as this. And this lady's saying it as a joke. You know why? Because now she's going to be at risk for any little thing. Not only something she would cause, which is where we're talking about and thinking about mostly. Something
Yep.
that I do, distracted driving, bump into somebody. But what about when a deer comes out
Right.
and hits you? What about when you slide on
when
some
the,
ice?
when the hailstorm,
you
we're
go.
right now, at the time of recording this, there were some big hailstorms that came through like the upper east of the United States
Right.
and the Midwest. There's flooding that happened a few years ago. I know that happened to a vehicle that you had.
Right. We had Hurricane Helene, and I was at the bottom of just at the bottom of the street, and water got in my car. So that means it was 16 inches high or something like that to
Yep.
get inside the car.
Totaled that thing.
And and so if your car is flooded, it's a total loss, and they will buy it back from you and get you some new car money or a new car or whatever.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're talking about. So if you're worried that a tree might hit your car, which I am, that's the thing. I've taken the risk off of that, so I don't actually worry. I have peace of mind. I pay premium, I get peace of mind. I get paperwork, and I get a policy that says if a tree lands on your car, we got you, like a good neighbor.
Yeah, here's what I think a lot of people miss. A lot of people, when they're trying to get their financial life in order, they start with savings. They're like, let me save another $100. Let me get to $1,000. Let me get to 3 months worth of my expenses. And what they're not realizing is some of their fixed expenses need to be improved on, changed, or increased. And here's what I mean by that. And I know that sounds crazy when I'm saying get your financial life in order, and then a thing that came out of my mouth is increase your fixed expenses. But here's what I mean. You've got to increase your fixed expenses in the security category, right? Here's what I mean by that. If you are currently not carrying property insurance on your rental, or on your home, you should. Right? There's too much risk there. It costs too much money to fix that, to replace that, to be without that if something happens. If you're not carrying vehicle insurance, if you're not carrying medical insurance, if you're not carrying long-term care insurance, if you're not carrying disability insurance, there are things that need to be part of your fixed expense category, things that you're going to be paying for, that you're always going to have, before we jump into the savings category. Because hear me out now. If you save a month's worth of expenses, 6 months worth, if you've got a year's worth, but you're not carrying the right car insurance coverage, property insurance coverage, for instance, and you hit someone, whether on purpose or on accident, and that person breaks their leg, have you seen the hospital bills? Like all of your year's worth of savings gone.
Yeah,
in a flash, just like that.
And how long does it take? How long would it take you to actually save in liquid cash
Yeah.
a year's worth of your family's expenses?
How long would it take me to save in liquid cash a year's worth of expenses? Probably somewhere between 6 months and a year and a half, probably.
Right.
I'm trying to think if I went really aggressive a little bit earlier than a year, and if I was, I'll save $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 a month type thing, it'd take me like a year and a half to two.
The reason that I'm asking this is because at your current, let's say if it was your current savings rate. Now, I know you save money, and we talk about the save and spend system. We save it in whole life insurance.
Yep.
But if you or the average person out there, if you're listening to us, how long would it actually, if it takes you $60,000 to live this year, how long would it take at your current rate to save that much money? Because good and well, plenty of people we talk to on these coaching calls are actually saving $100, $200, $300 a month.
Exactly.
So how long would it actually take you to save a year and then to have a catastrophic event like a fire?
Right.
And it's going to take you 9 years to save 1 year's worth.
Right.
And then it's wiped out in one catastrophic
Here's
event.
the thing.
You know
I don't think people they don't have a good perspective on when you hear us talking about this. Legitimately, if it costs, which it does, I don't think I'm stepping on anybody's toes or saying anything outlandish that you do not know. If it costs tens of thousands of dollars in order to have a medical experience, right? And please don't talk about you needed to go in the ambulance or something like that, because let's just increase the price by another 100%.
Because an emergency experience times it by 10.
Right, but if it costs $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, I've got to have, at the time of this recording, I've got to have ankle surgery coming up here in a few weeks, and it's going to cost. I got the bill for $7,000 and some change, and this bill specifically says this is not the surgeon and this is not the anesthesiologist, and it's already going to cost me $7,000 and some change. Okay, now if I do not have the security, the medical insurance to take care of that, for an extra $100 to my fixed expenses, then how long does it take me, and how much does it wipe out trying to pay them $7,000 for the surgery? Probably another $3,000 or $4,000 for the anesthesiologist. Probably another $3,000 or $4,000 or $5,000 for the surgeon. How long does it actually take me to recover from that? Why would I? If I know that that's coming, if I know how much these things cost, why would I take on that risk? Right? We drive every single day. You guys understand this. And every single person, I might call them up right now and they're going to complain about how much cars cost. Cars are wild right now, right? I drive a $50,000 car. Do I think it should cost $50,000? No, but it does. That's how much it costs. Okay, so if you hit me and it totals the car, there's a reason their insurance is going to go ahead and send me $50,000. But if you don't carry the insurance that cost you $100 or $200 a month, you have to pay the $50,000. You're liable for it, right? You can get sued for the full amount. If you don't have enough coverage, they can come after your assets. Why go through that? Just add the $100 or $200 to your fixed expenses first.
There you go.
And then go for savings. And that's what we mean talking through this episode. Security first.
You seem really heated about this.
Well, I'm just saying a lot of people don't.
Right.
I've talked to people recently, actually, in the last couple weeks. I talked to a family. They've got 4 young kids. And he had mentioned it's just too expensive, so we don't carry any medical insurance. And I thought to myself, what are you going to do when something happens to one of your children?
It's almost not an if either. It's a when.
And it costs $30,000.
Yeah, we got braces on our oldest boy 2 weeks ago.
It's $5,000. Everybody knows braces cost $5,000.
Right.
That's
so
what they
we
cost.
got the first half of the bill, and this is only the upper teeth. And he's got a spacer in there. He's 9 years old. They say we're going to have to do 2 rounds of this. This one's going to take about a year. Some $2,100 was the first thing that they handed us, right? And so we have to come out of pocket for that when it doesn't cover. Now, our particular insurance on our son is covering, mom's job covers 1 braces experience.
Okay, cool.
But we decided to use that on the second braces because that's when he has to wear it for 2 years.
Got it.
But this one's like 9 months, 1 year, so we're going to pay out of pocket.
Okay.
You see? So, like, you have to play that game as well because for whatever reason, we all know this in the U.S., Canada, it's a little bit different for you guys, that somehow your teeth and your eyes do not count as health.
Yeah. You have to get separate. You got to get separate insurance.
Your mouth and your eyes do not count.
I just think that, man, and again, if you're listening to this and you're like, I'm not sure what to look for, I'm not sure what to pay attention to, call so we can walk you through it. But little things like that, right? I've got 3 kids at home. Look at their teeth. If I look at my oldest son's teeth, I go, he's going to need braces. So should I not? So should I not have dental insurance? And when I'm picking the dental insurance, should I avoid the one that's $20 extra that covers orthodontics? No, that would be.
Have we seen this smile?
That would be irresponsible. That should not. Security first. Oh, I'm going to buy that one. I know it's $20 extra. I'd rather have, instead of $100 a month, I'd rather have the dental plan that's $130 a month with taxes and all that. But it covers the $5,000 thing that I know that it's coming. Right. So you go security first and then savings. And we've talked about this before. As you're building that emergency fund, build in those deductibles on that plan. Build in how much it's going to cost, right? I've talked about it on the podcast before. I've got like a home warranty that I use.
Yep.
Okay, so it covers appliances and this and that and all sorts of stuff. I've used it a bunch of times, but it cost me $120 anytime, or 125, I think, anytime that I want to like file a claim with them, right? But I'm in my house. I've got a dishwasher and a laundry machine and a dryer, right? Washer and a dryer, and I got a fridge and I got air conditioning and I got TVs. Okay,
Right.
so I don't know when those things are going to break. I've already had kids throw balls in the house and break the TV. It's already
The
happened.
microwave broke or something?
Microwave already broke.
Right.
The freezer door already broke. The dryer started acting up. Okay, so if we know these things are going to happen, I'd rather give them $30 a month for this coverage and pay them $125 when the thing breaks than to replace a $1,200 refrigerator, because that's how much they cost. Right? So I'd rather do that. And when the fridge breaks, use the services, and then look, I didn't have to. I could budget in $100 to my monthly expenses or my emergency. I can budget that in very much easier than basically having to have on standby at any time $1,200 for the fridge.
And God forbid that the fridge go out and the next month they break the TV.
Right.
Because now
Because we're just not going to have a TV.
I talked to,
Right.
I had a consultation. Remember, we do free cash consultations, and we want to talk to you. But I had one recently when we were on our trip in Birmingham, Alabama.
Yep.
Stepped out of our meeting. I talked to a lady who was so distraught that she had about $10,000 of her emergency fund saved up a couple of months before we had our call.
Yep.
But she had emergencies.
Yep.
And it went down to zero. And she felt bad about it, I could tell. And this is what I told her. Congratulations. You had an emergency fund. But that's what it's going to be used for.
And you didn't have to go into
you had
debt.
some. But you had some
Yep.
emergencies. Like,
Yep.
we need to realize that this is something we could paradigm shift and celebrate for a second. We do need to build it back up. I mean, I'm sorry, you lost the money, but you had it.
Yep.
Like, that's what it's for. The emergency fund money will be spent, ladies and gentlemen, especially if you don't have the right coverages, right? Some things you're just going to have cash for. We understand that. Some things are going to break that insurance doesn't cover at all. There's no insurances for it. But the other ones, we're going to make sure we're properly protected. And as our lives change, as we go on, we remember, okay, all the things that used to cost but now be changing prices.
That is correct.
You have to get those things updated every once in a while. So, Jonah, finish us out. What are we going to do to move people forward in practice?
Yeah. So like I mentioned before, if you're one of the people listening and you're going, you know what, I relate to this idea that these guys are putting down, I should actually pay attention to the security functions, features, the warranties, the insurances, whatever else it might be in your life. What you should, and you might be thinking, but I'm not sure where to start. What you should do is look in the show notes of this episode, or if you're watching on YouTube, go in the description box and book a call with us. We'll walk you through it. In our save and spend system, the first stage of that system is security. And I know that sounds a little crazy. I mentioned that at the start of the episode, that we're saying, no.
We're not going to invest first. We're not going to do emergency fund, just cash first.
Yeah,
right?
I know it sounds crazy to say, I want to get my finances in order. I need more money. I need to pay off debt. And we're going to say, first step, go review your car insurance. But I get that. But the thing about it, the reason we say that is because why build $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, but your car insurance wasn't right, and then something happens to you and all the money's wiped out. All that year's worth of work, 2 years, 3 years worth of work gone in a flash
or
because
things,
we didn't.
Of course, many
check.
people invest way too early as well. So you have to actually wipe out your investment gains or sell things that were in your retirement portfolio that you thought were safe because you didn't have cash to pay bills.
Yeah, a lot of people, again, are just not adding those security functions to their fixed expenses, right? We've got Hulu and Netflix and Disney Plus in our fixed expenses. Well, it's only $12. I'm not going to get rid of that. But you're not realizing that vision insurance is only $12 too. Go buy it. So that way you can get glasses for free. I'm not saying you don't have to go to Costco to get the glasses or whatever. Vision works, but it only costs $12. I literally have vision insurance in my household. I don't wear glasses. These are, if you're watching on YouTube, these are just blue light. But my wife wears glasses. She's the only one in our house that wears glasses. Right. It literally cost me $12. But every time that she has to get glasses or contacts or whatever, that I don't know how they work or how often she's got to get them because I've never had to wear any of that stuff. I definitely am like, did you go through the website and make sure they were in network? Did you go to the one place that makes sure it uses our insurance. As long as she says yes to those things, I know that I'm getting a way reduced price and experience because we carry the $12 thing, right?
There you go.
It doesn't make any, you've got to get that security stage done first before we jump into trying to save, trying to pay off debt, trying to increase cash flow, because all that can be wiped out if you don't. So again, get in the description box on YouTube, get in the show notes here in the podcast episode, book a call with us if you need a little bit of help walking through that. We've got some tools and resources for you, some tips and tricks that we can tell you about how to make sure as you're walking through the save and spend system, you're starting where you should appropriately. And a lot of people need to start with that security step.
Oh, it's time for another top 5. Today, we're going to talk about the top 5 financial mistakes that people make with their money. So coming in at number 5 is believing that investing alone will solve all your financial problems. A lot of people think that. They think if they just pick the right stocks or mutual funds, everything will work out. But investing's only one piece of the puzzle. What about taxes? What about financing? What about liquidity and risk management? Those things all play massive roles in someone's financial life. But most of the time, what we hear people talk about is investments and investments only. Number 4 is focusing only on the rate of return. Most people are obsessed with finding the highest return possible, but they ignore things like volatility, taxes, fees, access. We just talked about that, right? Sometimes a slightly lower return with more stability and control actually produces a better long-term outcome. At number 3, it's not understanding the costs of financing. Think about how many things people finance throughout their lives. You've got cars, you've got homes, you've got education, you've got business equipment. I can keep going. Financing is one of the largest financial forces in someone's life, yet most people never stop to think about how the system works or how they could improve it or how they can own their own. At number 2 is giving up control of your money. When your money is locked in accounts that you cannot access, or it's locked in accounts that are controlled entirely by institutions, not you, then you've given up your liquidity, you've given up your flexibility. And that might not seem like a problem until you actually need the money. And then it's a huge problem. The number 1 financial mistake most people make is just not having a system. Wealth is not built through random decisions. Wealth is not built through crossing your fingers and getting lucky. It's built through systems. A system for saving, a framework, a guideline, a system for financing, and systems for growing money over time. And those are today's top 5.
On our next episode, I'm going to be privileged to sit down and have a chat with Integrated Insurance Group. As we've talked about the security stage of the save and spend system, stage 1, the foundation for your financial freedom, we have a partner we'd like to introduce you to. So Kathy is a cash compound certified coach. She's alongside of us, but she specializes in property and casualty insurance, everything we've been talking about here. So we met Kathy a couple years ago, Jonah, on TikTok, of all places. She was following us on TikTok. Make sure you hit us up at The Banking Bros. And she and we have now teamed up to help people in stage 1. This is a free consultation call, right?
Yeah, it is.
All right,
Absolutely
free $99. And we're going to have a conversation with her in our next podcast episode. Check it out and be ready to understand the review systems, the safety net, and the security you need with your property and casualty insurance as you start your journey to financial freedom. See you on the next ep.
Gave a lot of game, we never got a lot of things. Bow your head and say the prayer, we taught you how to be the bank.